So 80% win rate strategy, I'm going to show you what the strategy is, and then I'm going to tell you some examples that I've taken recently. Really, really good strategy. Been trading this for about 2 years now and been having some great success with it in the markets, trading prop firms, copy traded, etc. So if you do want to get more information on this, you can get it in the description below. And like and subscribe and leave a comment. Let me know your questions and thoughts. Really helps out the channel. So really, really simple strategy. Say this is your market structure that you've had recently. All I'm going to do is go on like the 5-minute or the 15-minute, mark these major swing lows. Really, really, really obvious major swing lows here, as you can see. This is our market structure. And then very simply, all I'm looking for is liquidity sweeps, major liquidity sweeps, which are these big major swing lows, and then inversions back to the upside off fair value gaps like this. Really, really simple strategy. And what I'm looking for in particular is these 3 candle pattern V shapes, which are the best, most highest probability trades in the market that I've found, where you have 3 candles like this. If I can actually not just scroll away from what I was just looking at. Hello. 3 candles like this. And then what you're looking for is obviously, say for example, this is this scenario here. You've got your liquidity sweep. And then what you're looking for is your really, really big, obvious, huge candle back to the upside. You've created your fair value gap in the market here. The gap between these 2 candles like this. And then you're looking for an inversion back to the upside over this area of price like this. This is a really, combined with the major liquidity sweep, really, really high probability trading that I've found, and I think it's really, really simple to find as well. Plus, you don't have to sit on the charts for hours. You can just set alerts at major swing lows and then just go and trade whenever those lows get hit. You don't have to bother about sitting at the charts all the time trying to catch little trades here and there, which I've done before, and it does take the absolute soul out of you, to be honest. So now this is what I do. I set alerts at major lows, I wait for sweeps, and then I gauge the reaction, and I'm looking for inversions like this. And then my entry model is very simple. I copy trade a bunch of accounts, and I risk about $150 per trade. So what I do is I just basically enter once we inverse this fair value gap back to the upside. I'm sized for about halfway between the gap and the low in case price goes against me. If price comes back down like this and closes below the gap, I'll close the trade at a loss. And usually it closes around about how I sized for my stop loss. And then if we go into profit and the trade wins, I'll take half my position off at 1 for 1, which is about $75 secured. And then I'll go break even on the rest of my trade and allow the rest of it to run back up through liquidity levels. So for example, we come up, we hit my 1 for 1, I take half my position off for $75 locked in. And then if we come back down and hit my break even, usually what happens is I'm wrong about where the price is going, and price will just come down lower, and the break even pretty much saves me every single time. But if we come back up and then hit that 1 for 1, usually what happens is price just absolutely accelerates back through liquidity to the upside, and we get a pretty good trade. And then it's got a bit more discretionary depending on how you want to scale out of your position. But what I do is I'll usually get up to around a 2 to 1 or a 3 to 1 depending on what the liquidity targets are above. And then I'll decide whether or not to close more of the position depending on how many micros I've got left, because I trade micros. So I can scale in out of my positions. I'll basically decide how many micros I've got left, where I could scale, what would make sense, how does the momentum look, are we just V-shaping back up through liquidity, is there a good chance that I can get a big scale out of one of these. And then sometimes I'll also just trail the stop on the next one once we get to like 2 to 1 or 3 to 1, just so I can just secure the profit in basically. But it's a bit more discretionary once you get to that 1 for 1 and you go break even on the rest. But generally speaking, say for example this is your trade, you're sized halfway between the low and the gap. I'd scale half my position here at the 1 for 1, and then I'd probably be looking to target the high, which would be around a 2 to 1 or a 2.3 to 1 in this instance. So this is the strategy. Really, really simple, really easy to follow in my opinion. And I'm going to show you some examples recently of trades that you could have taken. So this week, yesterday, the price action was pretty grim, I have to say. Nothing really obvious here, nothing good in my opinion. There were some very, very average trades up here, but no major liquidity sweeps. There was, however, a really, really obvious trade on Monday, which I think is a really textbook good example of this. So if we take a look at our charts here, we've obviously opened up bearish of this huge new week opening gap. So that means we've got this big draw on liquidity above that wants to get hit. So it's a good target in my head. And then we come down here and we sweep this really obvious major low here. As you can see, super, super obvious sweep. You can see We've kind of been coming down for a while. We've swept out 2 major swing points. We're coming down. You can see we actually swept this here and we kind of accumulated. We didn't really bounce. And then we come down for the manipulation. We sweep the low again, and then look at this. Absolutely beautiful textbook 5-minute long here. It's really, really obvious fair value gap here. As you can see, we sweep, and then we get this really beautiful V shape. This one was 4 candles, so not quite as good as 3, but still very, very good looking. You can see super obvious V shape, targeting a 1-for-1. On this particular trade, because the stop loss was so big, I only took it with 1 micro. So in the end, once we hit the 1-for-1, I just started trailing my stop loss, and we pretty much immediately got stopped in profit here for about $150. But that was fine, because as you can see, it would have come down and hit my break even again anyway. But this was a really, really good example of an excellent trade. This really looked like an absolute banger in hindsight as well, to be honest. And I'm sure that there was probably a re-entry inside of this 5-minute that you could have potentially taken. We come down, tap the 50% area, and then you probably could have re-entered somewhere in this area to try and catch some continuation if you wanted to. But right now, as you can see, that would have been enough for me. $150 on bank holiday, I was done. I was like, you know what, that's good enough for me on the bank holiday when I shouldn't really be trading. But I just saw this and thought this was too good not to take, in my opinion. What else did we have? We had this 5-minute on Friday as well. I didn't trade on Friday because I was hungover and I didn't trade, which is a bit unprofessional sounding, I know. But sometimes you have to go out and enjoy yourself, don't you? I went to karaoke on Thursday nights, and I got absolutely sloshed, to be honest. But as you can see here, pretty obvious area of liquidity being swept. We've come down. We actually swept all the way down to this low here as well. So once you start seeing multiple major swing lows getting swept, you've got a good chance of a reversal. And I thought this 5-minute here was pretty obvious. You can see here on the 5-minute, we came down, but we never inversed back to the upside on the 5-minute time frame. And pretty obvious that we wanted to come down and sweep some lows before we got any kind of pump. I'm pretty sure there were some 1-minutes in here that did fail, but this was OPEX. And you have to remember on OPEX that price can be quite manipulated and weird. But you can see down here, this is a really obvious after sweeping this final low 5-minute. You can see this is another 4 candle pattern V shape inverse you could have taken. Enter, sized halfway between the low and the gap as always, targeting your 1-for-1. As you can see here, 1-for-1 gets hit pretty easily. So I would have taken half my position off here, and then because I would have only been able to take this with 1 micro again because of the size of it, maybe 2 micros if I was feeling really, really confident, I probably would have just trailed my stop here and got up to around maybe a 1.5 to 1. So about $200 profit that would have been with the strategy if I was trading. Thursday was an absolute mess. This is the kind of price action you don't really want to be trading. You can see here there was potentially, you could have potentially taken this inverse, but after all this chop, and we still didn't sweep any major lows. You can see we swept this one, but not this one. It was just a bit of a messy day, and I didn't take any trades on that day. What was the one that I was thinking of here? There was a good trade in here. Was it this 5-minute? I think I remember what these trades were now. I'll talk about the excuse me. I'll talk about these ones and then I'll get off because I don't want to make this video too long. Recently all my videos have been incredibly long. Let me just have a bit of water there. I thought this was a good trade. On our 3-minute time frame here, really obvious liquidity sweep. So you can see all these lows here, loads of stacked lows, loads of obvious liquidity. Really, really obvious areas of liquidity to be getting swept. Once you sweep like 3 major swing lows like this, you're looking for longs, aren't you? And then we got this really obvious 3-minute inversing back to the upside here. Again, because of the size of these positions recently, because of the incredible volatility we've been seeing, I could only take this with 1 micro. So this was another 1-to-1 trade where I basically was risking 150 and I hit 150, and that was it really. You can see here we pretty much started chopping around straight after that. But there was a really, really nice trade in here. We came down, swept some more major lows down here, and then what happened was, as you can see, we started to accumulate, and then we manipulate the low and then get the inverse to the upside here. This 3 minute in hindsight looks reasonably good to me, because you've got that accumulation, manipulation, distribution here. Again, this was another trade where I only took it with 1 micro, so I hit $150 and then trailed my stop loss, instantly stopped in profit for another win. But that was $300 on the day, and I was happy with that. Copy traded across like 25 accounts. Really, really good stuff. But there have been tons of really good trades, especially on the 3 minute recently. This Tuesday in particular with CPI was an interesting one. Huge pump to the upside for CPI. We come down, we dump all the way to the downside. I'm pretty sure here, let me just highlight this 1 minute that I remember taking. I believe it was a 1 minute. We come down, we sweep this major liquidity. We start to get a inverse to the upside. This was a really, really good looking trade. Look at this. So we grind all the way down. We sweep these major lows. Tons of liquidity being swept out. Look to the left. Loads of liquidity lows here getting swept. As you can see, we kind of start to accumulate. We're going sideways. And then we come down. We re-manipulate the low here. And then look at this beautiful, beautiful 3-pattern candle V-shape. Really, really nice. Really, really tiny first candle. Huge second candle. Tiny third candle. Huge fourth candle. This is like the most textbook 3-candle pattern V-shapes that you want to be seeing. Really, really beautiful stuff. Again, took this with 2 micros this time, because this was, in my opinion, really, really likely to work. We hit the 1 for 1. What I actually did with this one was I trailed my first scale instead of going break even. So basically what happened was I trailed this up to around the high here, and then got stopped in profit for about $100 on the first half of this position. And then for the second one, it was obviously break even, and then I just started trading it when I saw we were kind of grinding to the upside here. So I think I ended up at about a 2 to 1 for this trade, because we've got this massive Trump candle here where we came back down. But overall, really, really good price action over the past week or so. Lots and lots of trade opportunities. There was also a 3 minute here. I really hate how TradingView just goes all the way back every single time. Really, really grinds my gears. Where the hell am I? See, I can't find where I am now. It just really bothers me that I'm constantly having to fight against the... I've gone too far back, haven't I? Wednesday, Thursday, Tuesday. Okay, here we go. God damn it, I finally got there. Okay, this is the last trade that I can remember taking recently. Really, really obvious 3 minute again. You can see going into the PM here, we come down, we sweep the low again, and then we get this really obvious V-shape back to the upside. Tons of momentum. Took this with 2 micros, targeting 1 for 1. Scale half at 1 for 1. And then just hold 4 higher targets. Started trailing my stop loss at 2 to 1. I think I got to about 3 to 1 here before I got stopped in profit. Another $200 or so on this trade. Really, really good strategy, guys. Really, really good profits. Genuinely, I've been making a ton of wins recently, and really not that many losses at all. I took 1 or 2 losses here or there, but if you wait for these higher time frame ones especially, or these really obvious 3-candle pattern V-shapes that are like this, you are going to get yourself off major sweeps, some really, really good trades. So that's it for today, guys. I really appreciate you watching. As always, please do like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Do you like the strategy? Do you have any questions? And if you do want to get signals and alerts and more information about the strategy in detail, you can get it down below in the description. Cheers.